Hey Fisketeers, it's me, Rebecca. So many of you have asked for a video on how to use a rotary cutter, so I thought I'd put together a quick one for you guys and explain how they work, explain what you need to use, and explain a few other things. So let's get started. Okay guys, I've got a couple of different rotary cutters here. I've got just a loop handle cutter, I've got a stick rotary cutter, I've got the comfort grip rotary cutter, and then I've got the pretty designer stick rotary cutter. They all work basically the same. This is the 45mm size. We actually have smaller ones, we have larger ones. This is the one I use most often, 45mm. It's great for everything. Now, in addition to your rotary cutter, you're going to need a good self-healing cutting mat. This is the 18x24 size, protects your table, and you'll need an acrylic ruler. I like to do home decor, so I work with a lot of fabric that's wider than 45 inches, so I always end up using the big 24-inch one. Now, the first thing you want to do, and I'm going to show you guys this is a big no-no. Don't use wrinkled fabric, but I'm going to use this for this video. Make sure you iron your fabric. It goes a lot better, trust me. So, what you want to do is use your guidelines on your self-healing cutting mat. If you guys can see those, they're numbered. What I do is I iron my fabric, and then on the folded edge I line that up with one of my guidelines on the mat and make sure that's straight, and then I know my fabric's square. And see, this is why you need to use nice iron fabric. And then what I do is I take my acrylic ruler and I line a set of those guidelines up with a set of guidelines on my cutting mat. And that's pretty lined up. I don't know if you guys can see that or not. I'll zoom in a little bit so you can see. I've got right here my edge lined up with one of the things. I kind of move my fabric around to make sure I'm cutting it where I want to be cutting it. And then the next thing, whoa, zoom in. The next thing I want to do is I want to make sure that when I'm cutting with the fabric that I want to keep under my ruler. It's just a little bit more protection for me. So if I wanted, say, like a 4-inch piece, first I would square the one end up. I can do that for you now. Let me get this back to being lined up here. I want to even this one edge out, say, so I'm going to, like I said, line this up here. Make sure those are lined up. And actually, I'm going to come in from this side. And I'm going to hold my ruler down with one hand. And I'm just going to go right along the edge with my other hand. And on this one, I've got the blade open. A lot of these have like a locking feature, like this one. Blade's open, it's locked, and then I unlock it. So then I'm not going to cut anything. Okay, so I've evened up that one side, and then I'm just going to cut, this is a 6-inch wide ruler, I'm just going to cut a 6-inch strip. So I make sure that's all even and smooth, make sure my blade's open, snug it right there along the edge of the ruler, and just cut. Just like that. It's really easy. I like to protect my fabric, like I said, with the ruler, because if this were the piece I wanted on this side and I had my ruler here and all of a sudden I went, whoops, guess what? Messed up a huge piece of my fabric. So that's really easy. That's all there is to it. Make sure your surface is protected. Make sure you've got a good ruler. Make sure you've got a sharp rotary cutter from Fiskars. Woohoo! Love the comfort grip. And that's about it. And some of you may wonder what these lines are for on the ruler. I don't know if you can see those, these diagonal lines. They're a 30, 45, and 60 degree bias line. So if I wanted to cut bias fabric on the bias for like a quilt binding, what I do is I line up the selvage edge of my fabric. Let me get the scooter down here. And this is the selvage edge. This is the edge that's kind of finished. On a lot of fabric, like the name of the fabric or the company that made the fabric might be printed along this edge. That's the selvage edge. So what I'm going to do when I use the bias line is I line up the selvage edge with that. Let me scoot this over. With that line. I don't know if you guys can see that. Can you see that? I'm just moving this over just a scoosh more. So if I cut the fabric at that angle, that would be a 45-degree angle. What I can do is flip this over, make this a little longer. There we go. And then, see, this is why you want to use nice iron fabric. Line that up with my selvage edge, and then I just cut along that line, and that will give me a 45-degree bias cut. So that's what those lines are for. So if you guys have any questions, just post them on the blog and I'll try and answer them. I hope that takes some of the mystery out of rotary cutting. It's really, really easy. They're a great tool for if you're doing a lot of straight cuts. They're great. If you can use these to cut out patterns. You just have to be really careful. What you would do is lay your pattern down and then just follow along the pattern cutting lines. Pretty simple. And actually for that sort of use I would use a smaller wheel. So that's it. If you have any questions, put them on the blog. Thanks guys.